Mom, why is Mr. Fox in that box? My 8-year-old son was standing behind me in his dinosaur pajamas when I found the package on our front step. For a second, I could not answer. Mr. Fox was a small wooden toy with one painted blue ear. Theo had carried it everywhere when he was younger. It had disappeared from his bedroom 3 months earlier. I had searched beneath every piece of furniture, emptied drawers, checked the school, lost and found, and finally convinced him that maybe it had fallen from his backpack. Now it was lying on top of white tissue paper inside a silver gift box. Beside it was the brown teddy bear that had vanished the week before. The bear smelled like my mother's perfume. Underneath the toys was a photograph of Theo asleep in his own bed. The picture had been taken from inside his bedroom. My hands went cold. Go upstairs, I said. Theo looked at the photograph. Who took that? I don't know. Is that from last night? Upstairs, Theo. Lock your door and call Dad. Tell him to come home now. His eyes widened. I forced my voice to stay steady. Do it, sweetheart. He ran. I remained on the porch with the box in my lap. There was a duplicate of our back door key taped to the inside lid. Beneath it lay a thick envelope stamped "Confidential." Inside was a draft petition for emergency guardianship of Theo. The names of the petitioners were my parents, Victor and Elaine Mercer. The document claimed that I was emotionally unstable, dependent on alcohol, prone to disappearing for hours, and unable to provide a safe home. It claimed my husband Jonah had privately agreed that our son should be removed. His signature appeared on page 11. At the bottom of the box was a handwritten card. Don't embarrass this family. Cooperate quietly and we can make this easy. I read it 3 times. Then the front door opened behind me. Mom, I turned so quickly that the papers slid across the porch. Theo had not gone upstairs. He stood in the doorway clutching the railing. I called Dad, he whispered. He said he's coming. I gathered the documents before he could see more. Good. Are Grandma and Grandpa trying to take me? The question tore through me. I looked at my son's frightened face and understood that whatever this was, silence would no longer protect him. No, I said. They are trying. That is not the same as succeeding. 20 minutes later, Jonah pulled into the driveway so fast that one tire climbed the curb. He ran toward us. What happened? I handed him the photograph first. His face changed. Then I gave him the guardianship petition. He reached page 11 and stared at the signature. That is not mine. I know. They copied it. I know. From where? I thought about every contract, school form, home repair estimate, and medical consent my parents had ever seen. I don't know. Jonah looked toward the windows. Get Theo away from the house. My chest tightened. You think someone is inside. I think whoever took that photograph has been inside before. We left through the front door and waited in Jonah's truck across the street. I called the police. The first officer arrived within 9 minutes. Her name was Jordan Patel. She listened without interrupting, then asked us not to touch anything else. A second patrol car came, then a crime scene technician. They began with Theo's room. A tiny camera was hidden inside the smoke detector above his bookshelf. Another device was lodged behind the hallway vent. A digital recorder had been taped beneath the kitchen table. When the technician slid out from under my car, holding a black device in a plastic bag, my legs stopped supporting me. Jonah caught me before I hit the pavement. What is it? I asked. The technician looked uncomfortable. GPS unit with an audio module. How long has it been there? We'll need to examine it. The answer did not matter. The box had also contained 6 memory cards marked by year. The oldest was labeled with the year Theo was born. 6 years of recordings, 6 years of photographs, 6 years of someone entering our home, listening to our arguments, watching our meals, following my car, and collecting pieces of our lives. Officer Patel crouched in front of me. Mrs. Ellison, is there anyone who has had keys to the property? My parents. Jonah turned toward me. When? My father replaced the back lock last year after it jammed. Did he give you every copy? He said he did. Officer Patel wrote something down. Do your parents have experience with surveillance equipment? My father used to manage security contracts for commercial properties. Jonah closed his eyes. I knew what he was thinking because I was thinking it too. The box was not a warning from strangers. It was a demonstration from people who wanted me to know they had already been everywhere. Detective Lena Ortiz arrived just after sunset. She had a quiet voice and a habit of pausing before important questions. Why would your parents want guardianship of your son? I wanted to say they would not. I wanted to tell her they were respected people. My father served on 2 nonprofit boards. My mother chaired fundraisers, delivered soup to sick neighbors, remembered every birthday. Instead, I looked at the card again. Don't embarrass this family. They have always believed they know what is best for me, I said. That is not the same as trying to take your child. Number. What changed? I thought about the previous 6 months. My mother criticizing Theo's school. My father insisting we move closer to them. Their anger when Jonah and I declined to add them as emergency medical decision-makers. My mother saying you are making choices we may have to correct. At the time, I called it drama. Now it sounded like preparation. They wanted control, I said. We stopped giving it to them. Detective Ortiz asked whether I had ever received mental health treatment. Yes. I saw a counselor after Theo was born. I had postpartum anxiety. Any hospitalizations? Number. Alcohol-related incidents? None. Have you ever left Theo unattended? Never. She nodded. The petition includes a letter from a therapist named Dr. Marissa Cole. I have never met anyone by that name. Jonah leaned over the papers. This letter says Mara attended 18 sessions. I didn't. It describes suicidal statements. I never made them. The room tilted. I had spent years afraid that my parents would make other people believe their version of me. Now they had built it on professional letterhead. Detective Ortiz noticed my breathing change. Mrs. Ellison, look at me. I did. Right now this is evidence. It is not truth. I held on to those words. Evidence, not truth. The police asked us not to return home that night. We went to a hotel near Jonah's office. Theo slept between us with every light on. At 2 in the morning, he whispered, "Can they see us here?" Number. Are you sure? I was not sure of anything anymore. But I said yes. He reached for my hand beneath the blanket. I stayed awake until sunrise. Every sound in the hallway made my body tense. Every time the air conditioner clicked, I imagined a recording device inside the vent. By morning, fear had entered my nervous system like poison. I did not want to shower because I wondered whether anyone had ever watched me. I did not want to speak because I imagined my words stored on a card with a date written across it. Jonah found me sitting on the bathroom floor. Mara. I brought them into our life. Number. I gave my father the key. He was your father. I let my mother stay after Theo was born. She was your mother. I should have known. Jonah knelt in front of me. Known what? That 2 people who raised you would spend years building a case to steal your child. The word steal made me flinch. They will say they are protecting him. People who protect children do not hide cameras in bedrooms. I looked at him. What if the petition works? It won't. What if the judge sees postpartum anxiety and the edited photographs and believes them? Then we show the whole record. What if they have more? Then we find it. His voice stayed firm, but his hands were shaking. That frightened me more than anger would have. Jonah never shook. By noon, Detective Ortiz called. The signature on the petition appeared to have been copied from a roofing contract Jonah signed 2 years earlier. My father had recommended the contractor. The therapist's letter used a real license number belonging to a psychologist in another city, but the name and practice address were false. The notary seal on 3 documents had been reported stolen 18 months before, and the raw files on the first memory card contained something my parents had tried to hide. One of the photographs attached to the guardianship petition showed Theo alone at a park, apparently unsupervised, near a pond. The uncropped version showed Jonah standing 6 feet away tying his shoe. Another photograph showed a wine glass beside my hand at a family dinner. The wider image showed 12 adults at a Thanksgiving table. They had not merely collected our lives. They had cut them into shapes that resembled guilt. Detective Ortiz asked us to meet with family law attorney Camille Brooks before my parents could file the petition. Camille read the document slowly. "This draft has not been filed yet," she said. "Then why send it to me?" I asked. "To frighten you into cooperation." Cooperation with what? Likely a private custody arrangement, medical authority, or voluntary guardianship. Once you sign something, they gain legitimacy. Jonah pointed at the handwritten note. They expected her to surrender. Camille nodded. People who rely on control often believe the threat is more useful than the court. Court creates scrutiny. I looked at the box on the evidence photograph. Why include the memory cards? To show they possess information. Then they made a mistake. Camille's eyes met mine. Yes, a very large one. For the next 4 days, we lived in a secure rental arranged through Jonah's employer. I did not contact my parents. They contacted me. My mother called 18 times. My father sent 3 emails. The first said there had been a misunderstanding. The second said I was overreacting. The third said, "Your refusal to speak proves the concerns in the petition. A stable mother would put her child above pride." I forwarded everything to Camille and Detective Ortiz. Then my mother left a voicemail. "Mara, stop performing. We have spent years documenting your instability because someone had to be responsible. If you make this public, Theo will be the one who suffers. Come home, sit down with us, and sign what needs to be signed." The message ended with a soft sigh, the same sigh she used when I was a child and had disappointed her. For years, that sound had made me apologize before I understood what I had done. This time, I replayed the voicemail for the detective. My mother's weapon had finally become evidence. The search of the memory cards revealed recordings from the hospital after Theo's birth. I listened to one before Camille stopped me. My own exhausted voice filled the conference room. "I can't think. I just need to sleep." Then my mother. "That is why you should sign the medical authorization. Let me make decisions until you are yourself again." The recording continued with me crying and saying I wanted Jonah. I remembered that day. I had been awake for 30 hours. Theo had trouble breathing after delivery. I was terrified. My mother later told relatives I had suffered a breakdown. On the recording, she sounded calm. I sounded shattered. Placed alone, it could look exactly the way she wanted. But the full hospital chart showed no breakdown, no danger, and no recommendation that I surrender authority. The archive also contained my tax records, photographs of prescription bottles, copies of emails and recordings from inside my college apartment years before I met Jonah. "This started before Theo," I whispered. Detective Ortiz looked at the dates. Long before. That was when the past began changing shape. 10 years earlier, I had applied to a graduate program in Seattle. I received an email saying my application had been withdrawn at my request. I assumed I had made an error during the online submission. The university's archived call notes now showed that a woman identifying herself as Mara Ellison had called admissions and withdrawn the application. The number belonged to my mother. A scholarship office received another call, declining financial assistance. My mother had always said Seattle was too far too expensive, too unsafe. She had not convinced me to stay. She had secretly closed the door. Detective Ortiz also found emails my father sent to my college boyfriend, Caleb. He warned Caleb that I was emotionally volatile and likely to make false accusations if abandoned. Caleb ended our relationship 2 weeks later without explaining why. For years, I believed I had driven him away. I had built my adult identity around failures that were not mine. When the detective showed me the emails, I went into the restroom and screamed into a folded towel. I screamed until my throat hurt. Then I looked into the mirror. My face was blotched, my eyes were swollen. But beneath the grief was rage. Not wild rage, clarifying rage. They had called it love. They had called it concern. They had called every stolen decision protection. I had spent my life measuring myself against a version of me they created whenever I stepped beyond their control. That woman was unstable, ungrateful, confused, difficult. And because they repeated her name for 32 years, part of me had begun answering to it. I returned to the conference room. "What happens next?" I asked. Detective Ortiz slid a photograph across the table. It showed a man entering our backyard through the gate 3 nights before the box appeared. His name was Raymond Voss. a former private investigator whose license had been suspended for illegal data access. Phone records showed repeated calls between Raymond and my father. GPS data placed my father's vehicle near our house during 2 of the entries. We are preparing search warrants, Ortiz said. And the guardianship petition, Camille answered. They filed it this morning. My stomach dropped. After knowing police were involved, they filed an emergency version claiming you took Theo to an undisclosed location during a mental health crisis. Jonah stood. She took him somewhere safe because they put a camera in his room. I know, Camille said. We have requested an immediate hearing and submitted the police incident report under seal. When? Tomorrow morning. I did not sleep. At 3, Theo came into my room holding his teddy bear. The police had returned it after processing. Mom. Yes. Did Grandma take this from my room? I could not lie. Yes. Why? Because she wanted us to feel afraid. He climbed into bed beside me. Are you afraid? Yes. He considered that. But you're still fighting. I put my arm around him. Yes. Then being afraid isn't the same as losing. I kissed his forehead. No, it isn't. The guardianship hearing began at 9. My parents sat across the courtroom with their attorney. My mother wore pale blue and carried tissues. My father looked solemn, wounded, respectable. They had dressed for the role of devastated grandparents. When I entered, my mother started crying. I almost moved toward her. The impulse lived that deep. Camille touched my elbow. Keep walking. The petition claimed I had become paranoid, removed Theo from school, refused family support, and isolated him from grandparents who had served as his primary emotional anchors. Their attorney displayed the cropped photograph of Theo near the pond. Then the Thanksgiving wine glass. Then the therapist's letter. For 15 minutes, I listened to strangers discuss a fictional woman with my name. My mother testified first. Mara has always struggled with emotional regulation, she said gently. We have tried to preserve her dignity. Camille stood. Mrs. Mercer, did you install surveillance devices in your daughter's home? My mother's face tightened. Absolutely not. Did you possess photographs of Theo sleeping in his bedroom? I received materials from someone concerned for his safety. Who? I cannot say. Did you place his missing toys in a box delivered to the Ellison home? Number. Did you leave this voicemail? Camille played the recording. My mother's voice filled the courtroom. We have spent years documenting your instability because someone had to be responsible. The judge looked up sharply. My mother began crying harder. I was frightened. Camille displayed the uncropped park photograph. Is this Mr. Ellison standing near Theo? Yes, but... So the child was not unattended. He was close to water, with his father 6 feet away. Their attorney objected. The judge overruled him. Then Camille called the psychologist whose license number appeared on the false letter. The doctor testified that she had never treated me, never written the letter, and did not know my parents. A document examiner explained the copied signature. A notary investigator confirmed the seal was stolen. Finally, Detective Ortiz testified about the camera's recorder's duplicate key and 6-year archive. My father stopped looking solemn. He looked trapped. The judge turned to their attorney. Counsel, did your clients disclose that they were suspects in an active investigation involving unlawful surveillance and forged evidence? The attorney looked at my parents. No, Your Honor. The courtroom became very quiet. The emergency petition was dismissed. The judge issued a temporary no-contact order covering me, Jonah, Theo, our home, school, and workplaces. She referred the forged documents for further review. Then she looked directly at me. Mrs. Ellison, nothing presented today establishes that you are an unfit parent. The court is deeply concerned that legal process may have been used as an instrument of coercion. I had imagined feeling victorious. Instead, I began to cry, not because I was weak, because a person in authority had finally said aloud that the story about me was not true. Outside the courtroom, my mother tried to approach. Mara, please. A deputy stepped between us. My father called across the hallway. You are destroying this family. I turned. For most of my life, that sentence would have stopped me. I would have asked what I could do to repair the damage. This time, I said no. I am refusing to be the part of the family you destroy quietly. His face twisted. You think the police will protect you forever? Detective Ortiz, standing 10 feet away, heard him. So did 3 deputies. My father realized it too late. That afternoon, police executed search warrants at my parents' home, my father's office, and Raymond Voss's apartment. They found camera equipment, copied keys, financial records, the stolen notary seal draft affidavits, and a folder labeled Mara Contingency. Inside were plans for what to do if I resisted. Contact Theo's school. Report Jonah for domestic violence. Send anonymous complaints to child services. Release edited audio to relatives. Create an emergency by any available channel. I read the inventory once. Then I stopped. There are limits to how much of another person's hatred you need to study before you believe it exists. My father was arrested first. Conspiracy. Stalking. Residential burglary. Forgery. Identity misuse. My mother was arrested 2 days later after investigators found her handwriting on the box card and her fingerprints on the memory card cases. Raymond accepted a plea agreement and described how my father paid him in cash. He had entered our home 4 times. My parents entered at least twice using the copied key. The camera in Theo's room had been replaced after its battery failed. That detail haunted me. They had noticed when the view of my sleeping child went dark. They had returned to restore it. The criminal case lasted 11 months. During that time, people from my parents' social circle contacted me. Some asked how I could send my own parents to prison. Some said my mother had only been desperate to protect her grandson. One aunt told me I should withdraw my cooperation because public scandal punishes everyone. I replied once. Silence punished my son. Then I blocked her. My father resigned from his non-profit boards before they could remove him. My mother's friends stopped inviting her to events. Their house was sold to pay legal fees, civil damages, and the cost of replacing our security system. I did not celebrate any of it. Consequences are not joy. They are simply the point where harm is no longer free. At sentencing, I was allowed to speak. My parents sat at the defense table. My father looked smaller. My mother would not look at me. I unfolded my statement. You taught me that obedience was love, I said. You taught me that privacy was secrecy, independence was instability, and disagreement was betrayal. My mother began shaking her head. I continued. You stole decisions from me, and then used the damage to prove I could not make decisions. You interfered with my education, my relationships, my medical care, my marriage, and finally, my child. My voice broke. I paused. Then I looked directly at them. You called it protection because control sounded ugly. You called it family because conspiracy sounded criminal. But my son will not inherit the fear you gave me. My father stared at the table. My mother whispered, "We loved you." I heard her. So did the judge. I answered, "Love that requires captivity is not love I will teach my child to accept." My father received a multi-year prison sentence. My mother received county custody followed by strict probation, mandatory treatment, and a permanent criminal protective order. The judge ordered restitution for security costs and therapy. The court also prohibited either of them from contacting Theo directly or indirectly. When it was over, Jonah and I stood outside the courthouse beneath a gray sky. That's it, I asked. For the legal case, he said. It did not feel like an ending. There was no moment when my body understood I was safe. I still checked every smoke detector. I still covered laptop cameras. I still woke at night convinced I heard the back door. Theo began therapy. So did I. The first time my counselor asked what I wanted, I could not answer. I knew what my parents wanted. I knew what would avoid conflict. I knew what would look reasonable to outsiders. But desire had always felt like evidence against me. It took months to say simple things without explaining them. I do not want to visit. I do not want to answer. I do not forgive you. I need time. Number. The word no felt dangerous at first. Then it began to feel like a lock only I controlled. We moved 6 months after sentencing. Not because my parents still had access, because every room in the old house contained a question. Was the camera already there? Were they listening during that argument? Did they hear Theo's first joke at the dinner table? Our new house was smaller. The first night, Theo helped Jonah test every window. Then he placed Mr. Fox on the shelf beside his bed. "Do you think they'll ever come here?" he asked. "Number. Because of the court. Because of the court, the locks, the alarms, and because we know the truth now." He nodded. "That's a lot of things." "Yes." He climbed beneath the blanket. "Can I keep the door open?" "As wide as you want." I sat beside him until he slept. For years, my parents had used the phrase, "Don't make a scene," whenever they wanted me to disappear inside myself. Do not challenge your father. Do not embarrass your mother. Do not tell outsiders. Do not make a scene. The box on our doorstep was supposed to be their final command. A photograph of my sleeping child. A stolen key. A false petition. A message telling me to cooperate quietly. They believed shame would keep me obedient. They did not understand that the moment I saw Theo's face in that photograph, my shame ended. What remained was fear. Then anger. Then evidence. Then my voice. On the anniversary of the hearing, I took the handwritten card from the evidence envelope Camille had returned after the appeals deadline. "Don't embarrass this family. Cooperate quietly, and we can make this easy." I carried it to the backyard. Jonah stood beside me while Theo played near the garden. I lit one corner. The flame moved slowly across my mother's handwriting. For a second, I expected guilt. Instead, I felt grief for the girl I had been. The girl who lost Seattle and blamed herself. The girl who lost Caleb and believed she was impossible to love. The new mother recorded at her weakest moment. The adult daughter who kept handing over keys because mistrust felt cruel. I watched the card turn black. Then I dropped it into a metal bowl. Theo ran toward us. "What are you burning?" "An old rule," I said. "Was it a bad rule?" "The worst kind." "What kind is that?" "One that teaches you to stay quiet when someone is hurting you." He considered this, then picked up Mr. Fox from the patio table. "What's the new rule?" I looked at Jonah, then at our son. "The new rule is that nobody gets to call control of and expect us to believe them." Theo smiled. "That's a better rule." "Yes," I said. "It is." That evening, we ate dinner with the windows open. No hidden recorder beneath the table. No camera above us. No one collecting our laughter to use against us later. For the first time in my life, privacy did not feel like something I had to earn. It felt ordinary. It felt safe. It felt like freedom. My parents tried to write to me from custody. I did not open the letters. Forgiveness may come one day, or it may not. Healing is not a courtroom order that forces the heart to respond on schedule. What matters is that their need for an answer no longer controls me. They wanted to prove I was unstable so they could take my son. Instead, they left behind a record of their own obsession. They wanted the court to silence me. Instead, the court heard my voice. They wanted the box to remind me how completely they could enter my life. Instead, it became the moment I finally closed the door. Not quietly, not politely, and not with their permission.